Hey everybody, we are live streaming right now. We're super excited to do this episode. I'm going to give it a little bit of a second so that people can start watching and joining. I am Ryan Gordon, and I am a Cinemaholic.
How's it going, everybody? My name is Spencer Henderson, and I as well am a cinemaholic.
So today we have a awesome show um, lined up. Sorry, I was watching the video and it started playing in my ears. We've got an awesome episode lined up here today. Meeting 9. We're going to be going over our watch list first, and then we'll get into in-depth reviews on two of the big main Oscar contenders of Moonlight first, and then we'll go into Arrival. And how we'll do Arrival is we're going to review it, score it, and then we're going to get into spoilers. So if you have not seen the movie, go ahead and you can watch our review and our scores, but I would definitely recommend stopping at that point because this is one of those movies that you do not want spoiled for you. That being said as well, we're trying a new feature that we've kind of been talking about a little bit. If you're watching us live now, that's awesome. Perfect. We appreciate that. If you're catching this movie a little bit later and let's say for some reason you are not interested, I don't know why, but you're not interested in my watch list and you want to skip forward a little bit and you just want to watch the Arrival review, or maybe let's say you watch the whole episode and then later in the future you want to go back and watch the Arrival review because you haven't seen it yet, down in the description of the video will be a hyperlink. It'll say Arrival and then the time code. If you click the time code, it'll skip you right to that segment in our video and you'll be able to just watch that little segment. So that's going to be new starting this week, and we'll go back and fix some of our old videos to include that feature. And from here on out, that's what we're going to try. Comment and let us know if you like that, if it's something that we should bother doing or not. In other notes, I think the last thing I have is there's a supermoon outside, so go grab your phone, grab your laptop, pull your TV out of the wall. I don't know. Go enjoy that while you're watching our episode because it's going to add to the atmosphere of us talking about Moonlight, pun intended, and Arrival, which is all about space. So, Spencer, you had an announcement?
Yeah, actually, I do. So I just want to kind of pat myself on the back a little bit and congratulate myself because I predicted the future on our Cinemaholic Halloween episode when I said that Max Landis wrote An American Werewolf in London because lo and behold, who is writing and directing the remake of An American Werewolf in London? Max
Whoa.
Landis. Did you hear of that, Ryan?
I didn't. When did that drop?
Like just 2-3 days ago. I was gonna send you the link, but I had to like kick myself and be like, I'll wait till the show to reveal
Oh
this to
my
Ryan.
gosh, that's awesome.
So
Holy
I
cow.
I accidentally predicted the future.
Jeez.
So
Well,
yeah.
before we get into it, what do you think about that? Do you think it'll be any good?
No.
Max Landis is such a weird dude.
Yeah, I mean like I think that he's like a pretty interesting character as like a person. I like following him on Twitter and all that, but kind of just like his kind of sense of humor and all that is funny. I just don't think that his screenwriting abilities are necessarily anything to call home about. Chronicle is about the only movie I've enjoyed. He does claim that there's lots of studio interference in a lot of his films. Perhaps that has an effect on his movies. I just really don't think that he is like a great screenwriter. What do you
He's
think?
he's definitely the most vocal person in the industry right now. I mean, he has opinions and he's not scared to share them. Screenwriting ability, I agree. His stuff has been good. Besides Chronicle was really good, but besides that, there hasn't been anything that's been huge. So maybe this will be it. Maybe who knows? But that aside, what have you been watching this week, Spencer?
Well, this week, so first of all, I want to give a shout out to a couple of the people that I work with. because they've been driving me nuts about watching Bad Moms, because everybody at work just thinks that this Bad Moms movie is the funniest thing ever. I got pretty much ridiculed by my coworkers for not seeing this movie. I don't know why. I'm a white single male who is not a parent, so I really have no connection to this type of source material. And that being said, let me get into my thoughts. It was just funny enough to make me wish that I had liked it just a little bit better. This is basically based off the concept that there's this mom, Mila Kunis plays this mom who is very orderly. She likes to keep everything in order with her kids. She's very like overprotective. She basically does their homework for them, always cooks breakfast, whatever. And then she is always late. That's the one thing to her character. But then she decides one day, I'm just going to quit like doing all the things that are like the status quo sort of for a mom, which is a funny concept. And the beginning of it, I was like, oh no, this is really, really not going in a good direction. And I thought after they revealed that concept that the movie would start to get more interesting, and I really don't think it does. There are some really, really funny like lines about like pop culture. There's a couple great Game of Thrones references. In fact, there were 2 Game of Thrones references in this movie, and both of them were really, really funny. But there were also just things about it that were just so kind of ridiculous that the director, I guess, kind of overlooked. Like, there's a scene where kind of like the villain of the movie, played by Christina Applegate, is showing a PowerPoint, and there's no PowerPoint in the world that looks the way that this PowerPoint does, and let alone at like a middle school meeting. It would be like on some crappy projector that you can hardly see. It's pixelated as heck. The image is slightly blurred, and it's like this crazy like meteors flying out of the sky saying like parent teacher assistant meeting, and like it's just like, whoa, okay, you guys are taking this, and my belief is no longer suspended. So I really didn't love Bad Moms, but there were plenty of lines that I thought were pretty funny in the movie. Catherine Hahn kind of plays the character who's like basically almost a sociopath in certain scenes, but she had some funny lines. So yeah, a little bit disappointed. I'd give this a 5 out of 10. Did you see this, Ryan?
I did. I actually saw it opening night. I had very low expectations. I didn't know what to expect really from it. I wasn't too interested in it. I actually liked it. Probably not as much as your coworkers and stuff. I would be able to get it fresh on a Rotten Tomatoes scale. I'd give it like a 6 out of 10. I enjoyed it, and I was surprised by it. I would recommend it, but like you said, there's some things about it, and not all the jokes hit me, but there was just enough to keep me interested and intrigued throughout the movie.
Fair enough. So let me get into my next thing I've been watching, which is actually something I talked about a couple weeks ago. Let's go back to The Walking Dead, guys. I take back everything positive I was saying about this show. It's being driven back into the ground. Just that's basically all I'm going to say. I don't really think I'll keep watching this. I'll watch this week's episode. Maybe I'll be talking about this again next week, saying, look, guys, I take it back. It's like I'm being abused by like a spouse or something. The show's just beating me into submission and being like, I'm gonna leave you, and then all of a sudden it does something that's like, oh, okay, fine, I'm interested enough, and then you're interested enough to just wait around for all those kind of like dumb episodes. So yeah, I'm not gonna score it because I'm on the verge of quitting. So the next movie I'm going to be talking about on a more positive note is going to be Kubo and the Two Strings. This is the new movie by Leica Studios, who are stop motion creators. They made Coraline. I think they made Paranorman. Is that right? They made Paranorman, correct? Yeah, which I really enjoyed both of those movies. Kubo and the Two Strings is the strongest movie to come from Leica Studios, in my opinion, so far. The stop motion in this movie is gorgeous. This movie is is high enough in quality to remind me of the likes of like Studio Ghibli, who did like Princess Mononoke and Spirited Away. Some of the just those really, really great animated, super imaginative movies. And this is one of the most original movies of the year. It has just a really original, interesting story. And I think kids will think this is kind of cool. I remember when I was a kid, when I saw movies that kind of creeped me out a little bit, it intrigued me more and made me want to watch them a little bit more. And there was some really kind of frightening imagery in this movie, especially for kids. But that being said, the action scenes in this were also pretty dang great. So overall, I think, yeah, this is the best animated movie of the year probably so far. I would argue this should win Best Animated Feature at the Oscars as of right now. Yeah, I would give this a 9.2 out of 10. Ryan, have you seen Kubo and the Two Strings?
I did. I was just looking up actually how it did at the box office, because I did see it in theaters and I really enjoyed it. I would give it an 8.7 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. I appreciated the originality to it, and that it was different than the normal. You know, this year we've had a wide spread of animated films. We've had Sausage Party, we've had Finding Dory, and we've had Kubo. So it's very spread out, and I appreciate that a lot. The story was well driven, and I agree with what you said. This is this studio's best work. And we were talking a little bit before the show that, like you said, it's going to be an Oscar contender. It didn't do well at the box office, so I'm hoping getting Oscar buzz and good word of mouth like this, I'm hoping it continues to earn money, whether VOD or DVD, Blu-rays, and stuff like that, because it deserves it. And people always complain that there's not enough original movies out there. That's because people like us don't go see them in the theater. We don't support the original material enough that they can justify making them. And so this is definitely one that I'd suggest everyone go out and watch and show these people that this is what we want. We want good original material that is impactful and meaningful.
I'm definitely one of the guilty people you're talking about there who did not go see this movie in theaters. Sorry, Leica Studios. I apologize, because this was really, really a great movie and some of the most gorgeous like animation since probably The Lion King, if I'm going to be honest. Bold claim perhaps, but true as well. So my last movie on my watch list, I'll briefly try to go over this one, is The Monster. This is a new indie film from A24 Studios. And it's the director who did The Strangers. And the lead actress' name is Zoe Kazan. And I bring her up because her performance in this movie, her lead performance, is so good. It basically tells the story, and I'll try to be really vague. This poster kind of gives away a little bit of a spoiler. I'm sorry, I tried to look for something else. There's no other image that could really do it. There was no other posters or anything. So I guess if they made the poster. But anyway, so the mom and the daughter in this film kind of have a dysfunctional relationship. For a reason I won't explain, they're driving down a road, they break down, and there's a monster in the woods. That's all I'm going to say. The emotional core of this movie is so strong that I wish there wasn't a monster in the movie, because I think the weakest aspects of this movie are when the monster comes into play, except for the opening 30 minutes of this movie. The opening 30 minutes of this movie are great. They're so suspenseful. Until kind of they give you a payoff for the first scare. I thought it was so cheap. One of the cheapest scares I've seen in a movie in a really, really long time. And by the end of this movie, it's just so bleak. This is one of the bleakest movies of the year thus far. And there's been a couple, like The Witch was a super bleak movie, but I almost feel like this one, no, I take that back. The Witch is more bleak than this, but this one's pretty close. Gives it a little bit of a run for its money. And I thought this was going to be more like The Babadook and have an underlying theme, but it turned out to be pretty much just surface level. So I was a little bit disappointed with that. I'd give this movie a 5.5 out of 10. Like I said, the lead performance, it is so good. Like, if it got nominated for an award, I wouldn't be surprised. It's that good. But the movie that surrounds it, I just don't think is anything to call home about. Have you heard of The Monster at all?
I think I had heard of it. The poster looked familiar. I think when I had heard of it, it was just in passing. So I don't, besides what you've said, would you suggest that I see it, or is it
No. Well, it has really, really good cinematography. The lighting in the movie is astounding. The lighting in that, and the kind of atmosphere that the lighting creates is really good. I was so disappointed. I can't oversell how disappointed I was with this the monster aspect of the movie, which, since that's the title, that's the main aspect of this movie. They really dropped the ball because it should have been a great monster movie, and it really was not, in my opinion.
bummer?
Yep. So let's go ahead and get into, Ryan, what cinematic treasures have you been consuming this week?
Well, since I was going to do a different one first, but since you're talking about a kind of a horror movie that didn't work for you, how about I'll talk about a horror movie that didn't work for me? Shut In. It came out this week. I caught it in the theater, and it's starring Naomi Watts, who I'm a big fan of. It also has the guy from Stranger Things, the older brother. I can't remember his actual name. And it's got Jacob Tremblay. And that's actually the reason that I had this on my radar and that I went to see it opening weekend, was because what Jacob Tremblay did in Room was Oscar worthy. He was phenomenal. And anything he does, I'll go see, unless it keeps coming out like Shut In. This movie was awful. I was texting the whole movie, and I don't do that very much. I was so out of it the whole movie. I had no interest in what was going on. It starts off very, very generic. The premise is that Naomi Watts' son, the guy from Stranger Things, gets in a car crash and he becomes paralyzed. She is a social worker, a therapist, who then takes in Jacob Tremblay's character as she's taking care of her paralyzed son. Jacob Tremblay's character runs away, and she thinks that he dies and that he is haunting the house. And so the movie is about the hauntings that happen from Jacob Tremblay's character. That being said, they spend the first 5 minutes of the movie trying to scare you, and as soon as it gets dark and she goes outside, you know it's going to be a raccoon. Spoiler alert, it's a raccoon in the trash can. Like, get original. It was frustrating how bad this movie was. The only thing that it sounds like it's similar to Monster in the fact that the redeeming factor was the performances were good. None of them were award worthy, but they were passable. And I'm gonna score this movie a 2 out of 10. I tweeted that out. It was a bad movie. The only reason it got a 2 was because Naomi Watts and the 2 supporting characters. Have you heard of this movie at all?
I did. I saw like the poster when I was at the theater this weekend, seeing better movies, to be honest, from what it sounds like. That's a shame. Like you, Room actually was my second favorite film of 2015, right behind Mad Max Fury Road. That was just such a great movie. Like you said, great performance from Jacob Tremblay. And one of the things that you just said while talking about this movie, I just want you to know, from now on, whenever I feel like I'm about to be scared, I'm just going to say, is it a raccoon in the trash can?
Oh my gosh, it was such a cheap scare, and they spent so long on it. Oh my gosh, Kit, just know that it's always a raccoon in the trash can. On a brighter note, not a very big brighter note, I watched Mascots this week. It's a Netflix original. I had heard some good things about it. Most of the good things were all said before it had actually come out, so they were all just kind of word of mouth. Oh, I've heard this could be good, kind of a thing. I wasn't. It's kind of a bad mom situation. I wasn't blown away for it. I feel like more jokes didn't land than did land, but it was funny enough. I enjoyed it. If you have 90 minutes to kill, it's definitely one I would suggest to go watch. The premise is it's the competitive world of mascots, and it's like the Olympics of mascots. Everyone meets together for a giant convention and competition where they're competing to win the gold fluffy. And it's a mockumentary kind of thing about these mascots all competing against each other, traveling from around the world to win the giant gold fluffy. So for me, it was good. You know, I'd give it a 5.5. Not quite fresh. Like I said, if you've got 90 minutes and you're browsing through Netflix, and it's kind of a dry humor, it's pretty good. So I'd suggest, yeah, throw it on, but don't seek it out.
This is a Christopher Guest film. Am I wrong?
Yeah, it is.
Is okay. That's a shame that it's disappointing. Did you ever see like Best in Show or Waiting for Guffman?
No, and I think that's what I had heard, that he had done some good ones before, and that's why people were looking forward to this. I looked back at his resume, and I don't think I'd seen anything that he'd done. So it wasn't as disappointing for me because I didn't have anything to compare it with. But you've seen those ones? Are those good?
Yes, yeah, they're really good. It seems like it's very much his style to do the mockumentary. That's what both of those were. They were also mockumentaries, and they're kind of a zany cast of characters. I imagine this one's probably the same way, and it both actually kind of revolve around a competition as well. So it seems like he's kind of just doing the same thing over and over again. He's like the Rob Zombie of mockumentaries.
Awesome. Well, that's all I've got for my watch list this week. It's a pretty small one. We're gonna end that segment now, and we're gonna go into the movies that came out this weekend, both limited release and wide release. The biggest wide release, like I said was Arrival, and the smaller was Moonlight. So, Spencer, tell us a little bit about Moonlight and your thoughts.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go ahead and read the plot summary on IMDb. Moonlight is a timeless story of human connection and self-discovery. Moonlight chronicles the life of a young Black man from childhood to adulthood as he struggles to find his place in the world while growing up in a rough neighborhood of Miami. So to get a little bit into my personal thoughts on this movie, this is a movie that I don't think as a society we really deserve right now. But that being said, I'm so glad that this movie exists. From beginning to end, this movie is one of the most powerful experiences really that I've seen probably ever put to film. It really puts us into a very personal story, very similar actually to Boyhood. I was surprised how kind of similar in theme this movie was to Boyhood, whereas the emotions of both movies are very, very raw, and we're put into the middle of like the most personal experience that we can be, which is growing up and coming of age. And in this particular case, we're put into an environment where the character is constantly ridiculed and bullied, and he has a very rough home life, and he has a very poor relationship with his mother. And it's split into three parts. The first part is told when he's just like a small little child, and it's actually called Little, the first part, and his name's Chiron, and the second part is called Chiron. The third part of the movie is called Black. And all three actors who play this character throughout the movie give amazing, astounding performances. And this movie's really just a poetic film about identity and discovering your identity and discovering who you are and what you want in the world, which is something that I think is really, really good, considering this is a movie about an African-American homosexual man. And that alone is a really kind of bold thing to take on. As a film, there's never really been something this personally said about it, but the performances, the direction, the kind of grittiness of the movie, and the ending of this movie is just one of the most beautiful, like raw, emotional, but at the same time kind of hopeful and inspiring endings I've seen in a movie in a really long time. I was completely leveled by this movie. I love Moonlight. It is up there at the very top of the best movies of the year. This movie is incredible, an incredible, incredible story. What do you think of it, Moonlight?
I agree. I had two specific thoughts as the credits rolled and I was leaving the theater. My first thought was like you. It felt a lot like Boyhood, very similar. It was like Dope meets Boyhood, and it was very poetic and brilliant. And then my second thought was, I'm gonna go work out. I'm gonna go like hit the weights. If the guy from the second act can turn into the guy from the third act, I'm gonna go lift weights. Oh my gosh, he's ripped. I loved this movie, and you made some bold statements about this movie, that it probably is something that we don't deserve, but we were given. It is so poignant, and I'll be honest. I saw the trailer. I had heard a lot about it. I heard a lot of festival buzz. If I hadn't heard all of that buzz, and probably even if I had just seen the trailer, I don't think I would have gone to see this movie. I don't think I would. I think no one's going to go see this movie. I don't think it deserves everyone to go see it. But I feel like in a wide reach point of view, not very many people will get to have this experience. And so I definitely suggest, like you said, this is top 5 of the year. This is up there. I wouldn't put it as number 1 of the year. And I'm still kind of like mulling over everything for the year. So I don't know if I can say where it falls in the 5, but it's there. The cinematography, even just watching the trailer, you can see how excellent the cinematography of this is. And I appreciated the not generic approach to how they filmed it. I loved that they did the 3-act. But normally you have a first act that's 20 minutes, your third act is 60 minutes, and your third act is 10 to 15 minutes or whatever. It's very disproportionate. This did a very good job at having even sections. Each one was like 40 minutes, and it worked. Normally that feels a little repetitive and it feels off, but this really did it well in a poetic way. Like you said, it took the information of one of my favorite plays is The Humans. And I love that play so much because of the detailed writing and the dialogue, that it is very personable and it feels like you're a fly on the wall as you're watching it. That's what this felt like. It felt like I was literally watching this guy's life, and the instances that they choose to show on camera and the dialogue make it feel so real, so down to earth, and so gritty that it's inspiring how great this movie is. What kind of a score, or do you have any more thoughts about Moonlight?
Yeah, just a couple things. I just really want to say I think that this movie should win Best Picture as of right now. I know there are a couple movies I need to see before the end of the year, but if we ended the year today, Moonlight would be the movie that I would pick to win Best Picture, and I would predict would win it. And I would think that it deserved it. I really can't like oversell these performances. I don't think the performances in it are so great. I think that the oldest person who plays Chiron is named Trevante Rhodes. Is that correct?
I can look it up.
I think that's his name. I'm pretty sure. And I wouldn't be surprised if he got nominated for an Oscar, just because his performance was like so kind of emotionally raw and but at the same time kind of vulnerable.
But he still had that was what was so good, was he was able to convey that and be the thug that he turned into, but there was still the little mannerisms from the little kid,
Yeah,
and from the middle-aged. He was phenomenal. I am looking his name up right now.
yeah, but I don't know. I really, really can't oversell this film enough. I think everybody should make a point to go see this, and I think that there will be people out there. I remember feeling a very personal connection to the film Boyhood, and just saying, "Wow, this movie! I feel like in some ways this movie was made for me." And I think somewhere out there there will be people, plenty of people who watch this movie and feel that way about this film, and it will be very it will identify a certain aspect of somebody's experiences in life that will be very meaningful to viewers all around the world, probably.
Yeah, his name was Trevante Rhodes, and it looks like he was in episode 1 of Westworld. I didn't even know that.
Interesting. Well, I'm pretty sure you could have guessed it by now. I'm going to give this movie a 10 out of 10. I don't have any flaws with this movie. I think from beginning to end, it is one of the great films ever made. It's very, very raw, and especially for the certain type of movie that it is. That's what I mean. For the type of movie that this is, I think that it is one of the best movies of this kind. So I really don't think I can oversell this enough. What's your score for it?
I'd give it a 9.5, almost there as a 10, and I've been going back and forth about it all day. Do I give it a 10 or just shy of a 10? And I feel like it may not have connected with me as much as I hoped, as much as Boyhood did. But that's not discrediting this movie at all. It did what it wanted to do, and everyone should see this. It will make a lot of people uncomfortable, but that's film and that's life, and this is a excellent portrayal of life. So I think that'll wrap up Moonlight. We're gonna go ahead and move into Arrival now. So Arrival, I want to be very careful, and I am just gonna read the synopsis because it's a very, very touchy movie that I don't want to spoil, because that's the movie, So it says a mysterious spacecraft touches down. This is worded very weird. I apologize. When mysterious spacecrafts touch down across the globe, an elite team led by expert linguist Louise Banks is brought together to investigate. As mankind teeters on the verge of global war, Banks and the team race against time for answers, and to find them, she will take a chance that could threaten her life and quite possibly all of humanity. So the premise is very simple. The movie is very simple. It's a slow burn of a film, which is something that it was directed by Dennis. How do you say his last name?
It's Denis Villeneuve.
Denis Villeneuve. He does the same thing through. It's a theme for him throughout his movies. They're kind of a slow burn. They're methodical and they're thought provoking. If you've seen Prisoners, Enemy, or Sicario, Sicario came out last year. Very excellent film. I liked this one more than Sicario. I want to hear your thoughts, just brief thoughts, then we'll score, and then we'll get into spoilers.
This is one of the best science fiction movies ever made. Ever made. Okay. So last year, Mad Max Fury Road hit the big screen. And at the time when I saw that, I decided that Mad Max Fury Road is the Star Wars A New Hope of our generation. Okay. Watching Arrival walking out of Arrival, I decided I had just walked out of the 2001 A Space Odyssey of our generation. This movie is insanely good. Avoid all marketing for this movie. After watching the movie, I watched the trailer. It gives way too much away. It gives a couple of lines that I think are really critical to the movie away, and it gives some imagery that I think will be way more effective watching it without knowing anything about it. I didn't know like anything about this movie at all. I didn't know the concept. I didn't know anything. When I walked in, I'd seen the poster, so I knew it was obviously aliens, but that's basically the only thing I know about the movie before going in. So this movie has one of the best first acts probably of all time. The first act just setting up from the point where the movie begins and the opening just like shot of this movie with the music and the way that it kind of like builds this emotion in you that is prominent throughout the entire movie is just so amazing. And it's his best work as a director so far, in my opinion, which is such high praise because he did Sicario, he did Prisoners, and he did Enemy, which are all three such great movies. Like I can't oversell how great those movies are. Each of those ones would be on my top of the year list, and it's not going to change with this one because this movie, it's thought-provoking, it's smart, it is there's a sense of wonder in it, like in the best science fiction movies. The scene where characters first see the aliens is one of the great scenes in cinema history, I would argue. And Amy Adams' performance in this movie is Oscar worthy. She could win the Oscar. I would not be at all upset. I would just really quickly, one more thing I want to say. The cinematography and the music in this, and especially those two combined, it's almost like it left me speechless how like gorgeous and how much both of those things added to this movie. I can't oversell how effective those made this as an experience altogether. So what'd you think of it?
I don't even know where to start. Like you said, it's brilliant. It's good because it is thought-provoking and it's very methodical in its storytelling method. And it's one of those movies that you're going to be able to have in-depth discussions about. And it's a blockbuster. We haven't had something like this in years. Something that's this good at storytelling, that's this good at misleading and surprising and shocking and thought-provoking, all wrapped up into one, and being a blockbuster, that so many people are going to get the opportunity to see this, as compared to Moonlight, where it gets a limited release. This got a big release. It made $24 million this weekend. So that's huge. I looked up, going off what you said about cinematography, I walked out of the theater blown away with how beautiful and methodical, I'm going to say that word a lot, how methodically planned out the shots were and how beautiful they were. And I had to look it up, who did the cinematography on this, because I thought it was Roger Deakins, coming off of Sicario and him doing Sicario.
And Prisoners as well.
And Prisoners. I was like, oh my gosh, he did it again. And then it's a guy that hasn't won any awards for his cinematography before, a relatively unknown guy. He's going to get Oscar buzz off of this. This will be nominated for a Best Picture, and Amy Adams is going to be nominated, maybe win. There's still a lot of the female leads that I need to see, but she has such a strong performance in this movie. That's all I want to say right now. Let me just go into spoilers. So
can I just say one more thing about this movie?
Yeah.
This is actually, after watching it, I looked this up and found out this movie is actually based off of a short story that is called Story of Your Life. And the movie was originally titled Story of Your Life, and I feel like it should have kept that title. That's all I'm going to say.
I agree. So I'm going to go ahead and score it first, and then we'll get over to you. 9.25. Really great. It just didn't quite make it up there to a 10 for me, but everything that I've said, everything works so well together in this film, building off of each other. I don't think I've seen a movie where every aspect of film has added up to equal one giant portrait as well as this did in a long time. So a 9.25. What score would you give it?
I'd give it a 10 out of 10. I really, and it's crazy. I don't think this will ever happen again. 2 10 out of 10s from me in 1 week. I really feel kind of weird saying that in the first place, but this movie is seriously that good. I love this movie. I will watch this movie probably for the rest of my life. I will go back and watch this again and again throughout the years. And I think that people are going to look back at this as I said, something very similar and held in the same kind of light as 2001: A Space Odyssey. I would not be surprised at all.
Okay, awesome. Let's go ahead and dive right into spoilers. So if you don't want to hear anything, please, by all means, skip forward or go watch it and then come back and use our new feature in the description to skip back to this point. Open. What do you want to talk about? I would like to start by talking about time. The character of time in this movie is so on point. And I walked into the movie thinking, this is going to be one of those thought-provoking movies. All of his are. I'm sure they're going to try some kind of a technique of showing us the end of the movie in the first few frames. And then they'll the biggest, I'd say, is probably like The Prestige or something like that, where they show you the last bit, rewind, and then you work your way up to figure it out. That being said, the first couple lines are about time, and 3 minutes later, it was so intriguing, I completely forgot that. And then the way everything works together and how time became a character in this was so brilliant. I did have a discussion with a friend yesterday, and reading some of the reviews, the negative reviews have come from people mainly saying that they felt like the theme of time was there at the beginning and the theme of communication was there at the beginning, and it kind of disappears towards the end. It doesn't really resolve that they can't communicate, but I feel like that, to me, that was the resolution. The whole time they were trying to communicate and try and prove that there is a method of communication, and then it gets to the end and she accepts that the solution to the lack of communication is to accept that you can't 100% of the time communicate what you feel or what needs to be communicated. That is the solution, is to accept that it can't always be perfect. What are kind of your thoughts on that?
Well, I want to start off by saying, so the experience of having that scene in the movie when it is revealed to you that her daughter is an event that is yet to come in her life is one of the most fulfilling moments in any movie I think I've ever seen. The shot at the end of the movie where it shows the first shot of the film again hit me with so much emotion that it like floored me. It was one of the most powerful moments I've ever seen in any movie. This movie is just so ingenious, and kind of like you said, the way that the overall theme of and message of this movie at this point in kind of American history is so inspiring, because it's a story about the world coming together and working together, and furthermore, not jumping to conclusions when you're put into these crazy situations, when you are faced with something that's completely different and alien to you, no pun intended. But this movie it's smart. It has a heart to it. It has emotion, and the ending where her character makes the decision, you know, to follow through and live her life despite knowing the fate of how things will turn out and how things will fail, and deciding that she was going to continue down that path and choose to live that life anyways. It's one of the most beautiful, most poignant things I've ever seen in a movie, and just so powerful, so ingeniously told. This movie is so well paced. The moment where they enter the spaceship, which, why do they give that away in the trailer? That makes me so upset that they give that moment when you discover that the gravity like shifts and they jump and then they're like on the wall. That was so cool. And you're like literally put in the situation from the way the movie is shot. That scene's kind of claustrophobic, and Amy Adams' performance puts you really into her. Like, I was breathless in lots of these scenes, especially that scene where the aliens are introduced into the story. My goodness, what a presence those aliens had in this movie. I love Arrival. As I said, it stands with the great science fiction films of all time.
I do want to talk a little bit more about pacing. I loved how this movie was paced. It could have several times. It could have gone for a very fast, you know, a cutty. You know, like I said, everything worked together so well. It could have chose to highlight the editing more. It could have chose to highlight different things, but the pace is what made everything pay off in the end, because it was a slow burn. It gave time for the cinematography to show off how beautiful and how breathtaking everything was. Being in that spot, you could tell, you know, like you were saying, when they first are introducing the aliens and everything is claustrophobic, everything is tight shots, and then it shoots back and you see the whole glass and the backlighting with the haze. It's you could have done that so many other ways and it would have failed, but they pulled it off in the way the team. And that's, maybe he should be nominated for Best Director. He should be, because he was able to orchestrate the team as a whole so well, and that's his job.
I 100% agree that Denis Villeneuve should be nominated for Best Director for this film. There were so many just crazy, awesome choices he made. For example, the part where she enters her class at the beginning of the movie, and there's like nobody in the class, and you're like, well, why aren't people in class, you know, or whatever. And then she opens up the whiteboard, and it just shows the reaction of her and her students for like 30 seconds. And the way they showed that made the ultimate time when we have that just long take of showing the spaceship with the helicopter, and just the presence that the music and that long just shot of how small the helicopter looked, and that just foreboding giant spaceship in the distance. It's just so well staged, so well directed, and like you said, everything comes together so like meticulously that I really think that this movie's great. And I say today that Moonlight is my favorite movie of the year. Tomorrow it could be Arrival. I could have another idea about this movie, just because there's so many ways, like for example, just to interpret what the aliens mean by what they're saying because of their understanding of English is just so, that's something you can think about for every line they say in the film. And that's I think marks the best type of science fiction, which is something that is thought-provoking and makes us reflect on our own experiences in life.
This is definitely one that I've seen once, but I plan on seeing at least 2 more times in the theater, because it is like I mean, everything we've been saying, this is a movie that we're going to be watching for the rest of our lives. but it's one that you have to take the movie theater experience out of it. You have
Absolutely.
to see this in the IMAX, whatever the best technology that is available to you. You need to see this movie because it works, and that's how it was filmed. It was filmed for that spectacle. And so if you have the chance, go see that. If you have the chance to see it multiple times, go do that. That being said, it's never going to get old because you can think of different aspects in different ways each time you watch it.
And I really can't stress enough how important it is to go support blockbuster films like Arrival. Otherwise, we're not going to get these anymore. And like you said, the fact that this is a blockbuster film in 2016, when other movies such as like Independence Day Resurgence, Max Steel, and Gods of Egypt came out, the fact that this is like a big budget studio movie is just incredible and so awesome. I feel like this is the movie that Interstellar really tried to be.
Yeah.
And I could not have loved this movie more, really.
Awesome.
So,
Wrapping it up,
yeah.
I think, echoing what you've said, this month of movies, we're 2 weeks into November, and it's hit one of the best months we've had in a long time, possibly ever. Getting, I think both of us have scored at least an 8.5 on the wide releases so far. 4 wide releases this month have scored over an 8.5. For you, 2 of them were 10s. That is phenomenal. This is the time to go see movies. The rest of the year has been underwhelming, to say the least. So if you have been discouraged by movies, get out to your local theater and support some of these ones so people can realize, the industry can realize, this is what we want and this is what we need.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. Speaking of movies we'll be talking about, be sure to join us next week. We're going to be talking about Fantastic Beasts and where to find them. Thank everybody so much. We'd like to thank everybody so much for watching. And yeah, anything else you have to add, Ryan?
Yeah, thanks for watching. Please, we've really enjoyed doing this, and we're really appreciative of those who have been watching. Please share it. If you thought anything that we said at all was of importance, share this video. Make sure that you let your friends know that we have included that feature in the description. So if there was a specific thing or moment in this episode that you really enjoyed, tell them. Say, hey, go ahead and check out their thoughts on Arrival, their spoiler thoughts on Arrival, and let that start a conversation with you and your friends. Continue that conversation with us down in the comments. We'd really like to start being interactive with those people who are watching. And if you're watching during a live stream, I've got the comments pulled up on my side, so we can build off of what you guys are saying. We are excited. We've got big things and big plans coming up, so keep an eye out for that. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Rye_Gordon. Where can they follow you, Spencer?
You guys can follow me on Twitter at SpinnyHand. Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share, as Ryan said, and we'll see you next week for Fantastic Beasts and where to find them.